Hi, everybody. I'm Nancy Flowers-Mangs, and I am the, Senior Web Community Manager for Yale University User Experience and Web Services, part of ITS. And today I want to talk to you a little bit more about what I started talking about in the keynote, which was how we built our distribution so that we could deal with the support and training in the end when it was all done. So this is not going to be a talk about how we did the back end. So I just want you to know that I'm not really technical in that aspect. All I know is it's not multi-site, and that's about as much as I can tell you. So we'll have to defer those questions for another time when the technical people are around. But what I want to share with you, which was really important to us when we did it, was more of the details and what we did to build it so that people could use it, and people could use it without a lot of support, and how we built our support system to manage the requests that come in. I'm going to start off with the PowerPoint presentation, but I'm probably going to end up closing this down and actually showing you Yale Sites and how we built the support form and all that, because I think that's going to be a more tangible thing for you guys to walk away with. And again, this morning I talked about that we support a large number of websites. We have limited resources. When we first started using Drupal, we had HTML sites, and we were not even allowed to do scripting, so we couldn't even do a web form. So it was pretty limiting. We have 800 plus websites now in Drupal, 500 static or more. We're in the process of counting that, 300 other. We have a staff of 4. Now, when I say we have a staff of 4, I mean that's the staff that directly supports it. We also have all of ITS that indirectly supports us. They help us to provision the sites, and when something goes wrong with the network, they help us with that, and they help us with creating the URLs and all that. But when it comes to the direct support of our system, we have 4 people, and I'm one of them. And we do not build every site. We couldn't possibly build all those sites. So these are just some of the different designs that we have had. We're in the process of redoing Yale.edu, but you can see this is literally one of the sites that's still on our server, and that's one of the better looking ones. So yeah, right. So we are in the process of. We are in the process of cleaning that up. So why talk about support and training? Because if you can't support and train the thing that you've given to people, then nobody is going to use it, or they aren't going to use it well, and it's going to be harder to support and train it. So my goal when I was thinking about this, and when our team's goal was, how can we do this so that we'll get less phone calls, less emails, and training will be easier for people. As I said earlier, our D6 version was a great learning experience. We did a lot of things right. We had a great system for provisioning sites. We were able to have somebody request a site. It went through a provisioning process. It was automatically created. We did have some other misgivings, which was we thought that if it was free, people would think it was great. And we thought that it was easy. That was the biggest misconception that we had, was that we thought it was easy. We thought everyone else would think it was easy. And that's where we really turned it around, I think, when we changed to our D7 instance. The key thing that I've learned, I've been training for a long time, for most of my career, even outside of the technology industry. And the one thing that I know to be true is that you cannot force somebody to learn something. You can't. You may think that you can by writing down the process and giving great documentation, even a video. But if it doesn't make sense to somebody, they can't learn it. They just can't absorb it. So if it's too hard, it's going to be difficult to learn. And if it's difficult to learn, it means you're going to have to support it more. So the key is to thinking like a user, to thinking like what the least technical person, or whoever that person is that's going to be using your site, is going to be using it. So what we did when we went forward, we kept what was good, we improved what was necessary, we accounted for all levels of expertise. So what I'm going to show you when I show you Yale Sites is the way that it comes out of the box, and that's geared to the least technical person that comes. However, if we have someone who's more technical, they are more than welcome to do a custom theme, to use modules that they want that are more advanced that we don't necessarily support. We will be more than accommodating for those folks. The one thing that they can't do is they can't touch the file. So the only files that anyone can touch are the theme files. They can't go in and build their own module and just womp it up on their site, because the code base that we have is shared by everyone. So if I were to build my own little kooky module that was just for my site, everyone else would get it, and it would just be a big mess. So we do have restrictions on it, but we are very accommodating to people who want to do things differently. So now my next slide is about, I'll go to the next slide, and I'll say that this is one of the examples that is was our biggest breakthrough. So let me just back up and we'll come to that. Let me go into and show you what Yale Sites is. So anything that you want to know about Yale Sites is open to anyone who wants to see it, and it's at yalesites.yale.edu. And it basically explains our key features, different styling options. The cost is free to anyone at Yale. And here is where all of our support and training is, and everything that I use in my training seminars is there, and then there's the support forum. I'm going to talk about that in more detail. Someone requests a Yale site, and the request comes to us, to our team, and one of our people on our team will look at it, make sure it's legitimate, make sure that the URL doesn't have any profanity in it. Yes, we have to look for that. And they will make sure that it also doesn't say something like music.yale.edu and it's the student music club, and we need to reserve that for the School of Music or something like that. So the site gets requested, and when it gets requested, it comes up in the dev environment like this.
So that's automatic as soon as the request goes through. The dev thing is created, or you've approved it, and the dev thing is created?
The dev thing gets created after it's approved, and this is where, ITS, this is not one of the four of us that does it, but there's an infrastructure department that actually runs the script that provisions and creates the site. So they'll get a site that looks something, there's a few things on here that's a little bit different, like the penguin block. That doesn't come with the site. That was something I did in training. I should have removed it. But basically, they get a site that looks like this, okay? And again, there's a few things on here. They wouldn't have the academics. They wouldn't have the web form demo, but they get a rotating banner that shows up so they can see that they have a rotating banner. They get the sidebar block over there. It talks about what a block is, because remember, a lot of the people that are getting this site have never even seen Drupal, or some of them have never built a website before. So we're really trying to make it as easy as possible for people to, number one, not need training if they're more technical, or not be scared of it when they see it. We also, when we do approve the site, we send out an email with the links to all of our training classes. And one of the classes that we recommend highly, especially for people who don't, have never built a website, is a training class called Build a Yale Sites Workshop. And it's a full-day training, and the beginning of the training is talking about how to set up their site and how to add pages. We're assuming this is a relatively simple site, that it doesn't require a lot of configuration, but they add pages and add them to their menu, and by the end of the day, a lot of people are done with their site. So we highly recommend that, but it is not required. Yes?
I was going to say, you require that before they can go live or something. So.
No, we found that requiring anything just makes people angry. Yeah. So we encourage it, but we try not to require anything. So basically, they get this site. Now, we use the CAS logging system. And again, I can't talk intelligently about how that works, but it's the central authentication system. It's using the CAS module, and I'm going to log into my site over here. And then you'll see that as an administrator, which is what the person who requests the site becomes, this is exactly what they get. And hopefully they come to training so that they're not scared by it. But we explain to them what this is all about. And I especially want to show you some of the key things that we did. But we have a news feature, and what that means is that there is a content type and a view. These are our key features: the events for the calendar, the gallery for the photo gallery, news, rotating header image. Web form is just turned on by default. And it automatically creates this news listing with the archives, the calendar, automatically creates a list. I actually also just remembered that the template isn't actually, there should not be this white space over here, so I clearly was playing with the theme and never put it back the way that it was. So just imagine that that white space is not there for all of these features. But you'd have up if we had an event, the rotating header is on the home page. And so during the training, we do explain how to change all this out. But the most important thing that we tell them is that in order to add your content, all you need to do is go to Content, Add Content, and Basic Page, or Content, Add Content, News. And they can add their news, and that their news shows up where it's supposed to go. And that's for the pre-built features. So all the pre-built features have pre-designed lists or pages where that content is supposed to go. So they don't even have to think about where it's going. And that's a big relief for most people. And the way that we created the features was because in our D6 instance, these were the things that we were having to build over and over again. And we didn't have time to build a feature then, and I don't know if we even had the wherewithal to know that we could do that at the time because we were all learning. So going forward, we said, what are the things that people want? And so that, again, the goal was is all people would have to do would be to go to Content, Add Content, News. Now, as I said before, if somebody wants a more complex view, they can build it because they can go into the back end. We didn't change the back end. We didn't make this not Drupal. We kept it looking like Drupal. We kept it behaving like Drupal. So that if someone was more experienced, they could either request a module or use a module that's on the list, and they could create some pretty complex views. And I'll show you some of the sites that we've done. Let me see if I can think of some. Let's see. Now, it may not, you might not get the full effect just because of the way. So this is one of our sites that we actually built. But this is using one of our Yale sites. It's actually the wide template that's changed a little bit. We exposed. We use the Omega theme, by the way, and it's Omega 3. That's what we use as the underlying theme. And the main reason that we picked it is because it has every region you could possibly want. So in our D6 version, every time somebody wanted a new theme, what we did was we created a new theme. So you can imagine what that was like trying to support it, because as soon as somebody saw these 3 boxes on the bottom, everybody wanted the 3 boxes on the bottom. So when somebody wants it now, we just say, okay, well, we'll just expose those regions. And then we ask the ultimate question, do you have content to put in there? I knew you would all appreciate that. And they go, but I want a website. Yep. Yeah. So we also have, this is just some examples. So this is our Yale in the World site. And you can kind of see there's a common underlying theme here. It all kind of looks like Yale, but yet we have sites that look very different. Now we built these, but some of them, the themes, let's see, I'm trying to think. I'll give you one that one of our early adopters did, political science. This is one of our out-of-the-box templates that they built. Came to our early adopter class, and here's an example of our people listing. And if we were to go to faculty, and again, well, the people listing is a little bit different. We actually took advantage of tying into the database that pulls some of the information for the people, so they just type in their net ID, and it pulls in some of the information. But the layout, nobody has to build this layout, especially the A to Z selector. I mean, that would be impossible to teach people. Trust me, I tried. Yes.
Nancy, how much did you guys develop roles and like tiered permissions? Is everybody a site editor like at the same level, or do you have admins and site editors and reviewers and that sort of thing?
So we didn't do any of that. We have 3 roles that we created, and if everybody didn't hear the question was about roles and permissions and allowing people to have access. The way that we handled that is the person who requests the site is an administrator. They have the ability to either give people the role of site builder, which allows them to do pretty much everything, except not everything. I think you know what I mean. It protects you from the real complicated stuff. And then there's an editor who can only manage and add content, and that means that they can also manage blogs. But rarely do we have people using those roles. Most people, there's 2 administrators. Most of these sites are relatively small and there's only 1 person working on it. We recommend 2 administrators in case somebody leaves or somebody's sick, then somebody can get into the site to make the changes. But people rarely use that. I will say that in our Drupal 6 instance, we had 2 groups that wanted that complex workflow. I just talked to one the other day because we were in the same meeting. She says, I wish we had never done that. Wow. She said it's really so hard to manage and waiting for it to go through the workflow that it's just easier to just do it. So of all the sites we've done, we only did 2 in D6, and we had Workbench, and I thought Workbench is great because it was so easy compared to what we had to do in 6, and nobody's using it. So I hope that answered your question. So that's just some of the examples of the kind of work that we're doing with this. So I talked about how we do the pre-built features, and basically what I'm doing is I'm giving you my morning class in an hour. So if I'm talking too fast, I'm sorry, but I just want to tell you the story behind this great brainstorm that we had. We thought we had this all done. We did all these pre-built features. We thought it was great. We couldn't wait to show people. We had these themes that looked really good. Let me just show you. Well, no, I'm not going to show you. This is being recorded. I don't know. Okay, let me just show you. All right, I got to show you. So I just want to show you what the other. And it wasn't bad.
Oh.
They tried.
But it was boring.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's not bad. It was gray and navy blue. And there were some people who did some phenomenal things with this. But it was very boxy. It wasn't kind of open and fluid. And to tell you the truth, when we first did this, it was probably better because it was 4 or 5 years ago. But things that quickly became open and fluid, and so when we built our templates, this is our box theme, and this is our standard theme. You can see it's kind of more open and inviting, and it gives you the ability, kind of the landscape, to do more because everything's not boxed in there. So that was good. We were very proud of ourselves, and we had early adopters training where people came and actually used it. And everything was great until we had them add a basic page and add that page to a menu. And everyone's nodding their head, and I know you know why. Because it's really hard, and it was especially hard. I thought it was harder in Drupal 7 because the content type, you have to tell it what menu you want it to assign. So I'm going to have to use a marker here. So for those of you, I know that they can't see this on the camera. So first you wanted to have submenus. You would have to create the submenu, right? We'll just call it submenu. Okay, so you have to create the submenu. Then you have to assign that submenu to the content type. So you'd have to go into the content type. Well, first I guess you'd have to create the content type. But you'd assign it to the content type. Then when you add the page, that menu was available. But when you add the page, there's nothing saying that block that the menu lives in is going to live on just that page. So you would have to go, you create the page, and then you'd have to go back to the block where the menu lives, and you'd have to go down to the bottom and you'd have to put that reference there, right? And we didn't, when we were first building, we were like, well, that's not a big deal, until I tried to stand up here and tell non-technical folks how to do it, and they were all sitting there like, what? It was about 7 steps. So we were like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? This is gonna kill the whole thing, because it's gonna be that one level of complexity that's so important, because basic pages are very important. Not everybody's gonna have news and events and all that stuff. But what we found was the menu block module. And if nobody has used the menu block module, I think it should be part of Drupal 4. I really do. It's a very simple module, and I already have it turned on here. But I'll just show you how it works. You just go to structure, you turn on the module. It's just called menu block, and you turn it on, and then you can add a menu block. This is like the miracle module, I'm telling you. Can you see this? So it works very much, it's like a block and a menu combined. You can give the block a title, but if you give it a title, all the blocks will have that title. So chances are you don't want to give it a title. And you'll see why in a minute. You can also give it an administrative title otherwise it shows up saying, I'll let you see how it shows up. But it says menu block +2 or whatever. We had everything, as I said before, we're just using the main menu. So this was one of the other advantages. They only had to deal with one menu, the main menu. And I heard another talk where they were talking about chunks. We talk about buckets. And the buckets are the ones that go across the top in the main menu, and then you have the ones that create your submenus. So we always have them do the submenu. Now this takes them 5 minutes. We could not turn this into a feature to have it automatically out of the box. I think you can now, but when we first did it, you couldn't. So we just tell them, just stay on the menu. It takes 5 minutes for them to create. Just keep the main menu. And then here, you just say you want it to start at the 2nd level, because you want little subblocks to start at the 2nd hierarchy. You could do the 3rd. You can actually do some really cool things with this too, with multiple menu blocks, putting them in different regions. And then I always tell people, you can set this to unlimited, because I assume that you're not going to do 9, levels in. We hope people aren't going to do that, and they don't usually. And then down here, it just works like a regular block, except all you have to do is say that you want to put it in sidebar 2nd, or whatever. We do sidebar 1st or sidebar 2nd. There's just no sidebar 1st on our home page, so it depends on where you want to put it, sidebar 1st or sidebar 2nd. And then you don't even have to tell it what pages. And it's a miracle. So I've put the cake in the oven already, so now I'm going to pull it out. But this is where I have the most fun. So I'm going to create a basic page, and I'm going to call it what?
Zombie apocalypse.
How about zombies? Because zombie apocalypse would be too long, and there's limited space that goes across the menu. I paid her to do that. And then I'm going to add this to the menu. It already says zombies, yay for Drupal 7. That was the one thing I used to always forget in Drupal 6, and then I couldn't figure out why it wasn't showing up on the menu. And I'm going to save it, and then zombies will be one of our buckets up at the top. But notice, nothing's showing up over here because zombies doesn't have any children. So now I'm going to add some children. I know. So I'm going to add a child page. What should this be? Child zombie? I don't know anything about zombies. Son of zombies? Am I spelling zombie? Then instead of putting it on the main menu, I pick zombies and watch. Isn't that a thing of beauty? And so when people see this it's not just a miracle. It's like
you see light bulbs come on.
Oh my God! And especially the people who had used Drupal 6 before, it's like, they're just so happy that it's so easy, because they can just keep adding their pages and adding them to menus, and they build out their menu structure. And then in addition to that, this is a little plus that they don't quite get right away, but I get it, is that when they click on their gear, which I tell them is their best friend, because you can now get to your block really easily, and you go to list links, you can see your entire hierarchy of your site. And so it's not like you have to go from menu to menu to try and figure it out. And if they want to rearrange the furniture, as I call it, if they wanted to put undergraduate program, I'm not sure why, underneath calendar, they can just drag it around and they can establish, you have to do a URL, whatever it's called, something, regeneration. And then it changes the URLs based on the menu. But so it makes it really easy. So this is just one example of how we really made it a lot easier for people to do what they needed to do. Mm-hmm. Just one other thing I want to tell you when I thought about that with the menu, there was another key thing. It was funny, we did a talk at Austin, or in Austin, and the woman from Stanford found the same thing. It's one of those hidden, it's in URL aliases. And it's under patterns, and it's a token. I'm going to have to make this bigger. And it's like the best, this is right up there with the menu block, but I think it's the two of them. This token, node menu, link, parents, join path, whatever it is, you'll find it in your token thing. What that does is it actually creates your URL alias based on the menu path. Mm-hmm. And so even if you're working with basic other blocks that you need to put there, you're automatically going to be able to use your block shortcuts because it's following the menu path. So academics, all I have to do is academic star in any other block. Not the submenus, but any other block that I have that I only want on the academics. Like a rotating header image that maybe I only want on academics. So those were two key things that we did that made the service absolutely much easier for people to do. And that's just an example. And I will say that the way that we learned this was in having people use it. And thank God that, we did that first, because it would have been bad if we had. Because once you launch it, you only have one chance to make a good impression. So does anybody have any questions of what I've talked about so far or anything else? Yes.
Does your menu at the top drop down when you?
It can. We didn't do that out of the box, mainly because of what's it called? The mobile.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a little bit tricky, but there is, it's not a pre-built feature, but there is configuration and there are instructions on the how-to guide for how to do that. It takes about 15 minutes to set up. Yes?
Why did you choose Omega?
So there were a couple of reasons why we choose Omega. The main reason was that it was responsive out of the box. But the second main reason was because of all the multiple regions that it had. And this is Omega 3 because we did this is about 2.5 years ago when we first, maybe 3 years when we were thinking about it. So, and we are not going to change to 4 because eventually we're going to go to Drupal 8 and we may use a whole different sub-theme. Mm-hmm. But what we learned with our Drupal 6 instance was that we started out with just the basic regions, but every time somebody wanted a new region, we had to create a TPL file. Mm-hmm. And you can actually create TPL files without having to do any custom theming. Mm-hmm. So you can use it's called the Delta module. I don't know if anybody has worked with this, but you can actually create deltas. Yeah, let me just go into the edit.
You can move your bookmarks with Delta and Omega, which is like next to impossible.
Oh, really?
Theming. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
So you create your breadcrumb trail,
Right.
And you can move it to above the title.
Exactly.
Figure.
Exactly. Let me show you that this was the thing. We were, even people who could theme and even people who were technical, when it comes to like thinking about regions and where things go in your site, it's very confusing. Now, I will say that Omega did bring in a couple of extra things to talk about, like the zones. The regions live in zones now, and the zones lived in sections. But we don't have a lot of people doing this. But basically, this is how you would configure everything, and you can go in and you see the postscript. That's probably why I'm having a problem. The postscript zone is somehow on top of. Maybe I'll just fix this now. Maybe I won't, because I'll probably make it worse. Anyway, you can go in here and you can change. You can rearrange the configuration any way that you want. It's based on the 12-column grid. So if you wanted to make the right column wider, all you have to do is go in here and assign it to 5 columns and then the other to 7. And it's
Was there a close second, or what other things were you looking at?
we looked at adaptive, but we didn't find that it had the regions and the flexibility. And again, we were only 4 people, so we kind of were like, this seems to be working, so I think we'll use it.
Okay, no, it's very good. I was just because I always hear, especially when you're trying to do new themes with responsive, so
Right.
Omega or Zen or
Right. Zen didn't have the built-in regions. We did look at Zen. It didn't have the built-in regions, and I don't think adaptive did either. It was really the regions that, because you don't have to show the regions. If you don't want to show the regions, you don't have to. And so that was a real advantage. And then you can show them if you want to. What else was I thinking about? The ones I can't remember. But that's basically why.
Because this was easier to empower your site builders to change layouts and add regions?
Yes, because of the delta. Because you can create as many layouts as you want with that. We still don't have that many people doing it. The most popular thing for people to do is these boxes in the bottom. But that we have instructions in the how-to guide to do it. Again, it's configuration. There's no code. So that makes it easier, yes.
Do you ever have departments ask you like, oh, my department is special and unique and I want to use a very different theme? Do you like give them other options, or you're like, well, this is kind of what we're working with, this fits within our branding, so this is what you have kind of to choose?
So we do have a lot of people, of course, that's what they want. They think a website is the theme. They, again, don't think about it as being content. So we try and educate them to using the themes, but they're not mandated. And we offer them a lot of different solutions. Our group specifically doesn't build the site, but we do have a team that we work with. And so we will see if we can put them on the list to get done with our team. We have other vendors that we recommend. If they want, they're welcome to, but they have to pay for that.
Okay.
They also have to pay if we're going to build it for them, if our other team that we work with is going to build it. And so what we're trying to do is to offer them a free alternative. And I do show them ways that they can adjust their theme so that they can have a theme that looks somewhat custom. This one, I'm not sure. I mean, a designer might look at this and say, this one just went by. A designer might look at this and say, this isn't that great, but considering, I can't spell astrology, A-S. Yeah, I can't talk and type. Astrology.
Astronomy.
Is it?
Not astrology. Yeah.
No,
One's the science and one is the art.
I was wondering.
Why are they? Yeah, I know.
You just anchored a bunch of academics at Yale.
Well, you can tell I'm not an academic. Astrology. Did I spell that right?
Astronomy.
I am just stuck.
You have it right there at the top.
Astro.
There it is. It's not Astro though. It was Astro. Oh no, get me out of the CSS. I was just helping them this morning. The only reason I say a designer they might think, oh, the gray is boring and something like that. But one of the students in my class did this, and so so there are ways. We try to encourage them to use what we have, and good photo. We have a class and taking good photos, because now everybody's got a phone. They can take pretty good photos, and so if you have decent photos, you can do a pretty decent website and content. You can't minimize the content, but yeah, she built this pretty good. And this was a group that I can't show you the previous design, but they were pretty sure that they did not want to use the standard template. Pretty sure. Well, one of the things that I'll just share with you, one of the things that people, again, they come in and they say, I want something special. And so I say, would you like your site, would you like your site to look like this? And they say, oh yeah, that site's great. And then I kind of point out to them, this is not behaving very well because I'm just trying to make it bigger. This is in our Drupal 6 instance, so it's a little bit different. But it's one of the sites that we used when we were thinking about our templates. And I always say to people, okay, let's look at this. We have a header that says Yale News. Looks like our theme, right? We have the menu that goes across the top. We have the menu that goes up the side. We have the image, and we go down here. And I point out that this is pretty much our standard theme, but we need content. Light bulbs go on, sort of. Not really. They're dim. They're a little dim right now. They're like,
Slow buzzing.
yeah, right. On and off. It's got to get a little warmer in here from the door. Yeah. But yes, the theming was an issue. It's less of an issue, though, I will say, with the templates that we have now, because they're more flexible and they're more open, and people have been able to work with them because they're easier to work with. So, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that would help. Oh, let me talk about the support and training that we offer. So I told you about the Build a Yale Sites workshop. And we do that once a month. It's a full day training. We have the ability to have at least 12 people in the class. It's usually not 12, which is kind of a good thing because I think having 12 people in there is a lot. It's free and it's open to anybody who wants to come, and I always tell them that they can always come back too, because sometimes they just need to sit in a room where the phone isn't ringing and they need somebody there to kind of help them when they're pulling their hair out. How many people thought learning Drupal the first time was easy? Good, good. Somebody sort of raised their hand. I remember my first experience, and I was pulling my hair out, swearing. My children were looking at me like, that's a new word. Oh, I've heard that before, but not quite in that way. And so I knew that when we were talking about training, that we had to have something where people could work on their site and learn it in context of what they were doing. So that if we had the Yale astrology site example that we're building, because there is no astrology, that's right, there's no astrology class at Yale.
It's your new demo site.
Yeah, it's our new demo site, right.
There may be a club though.
Yeah.
Maybe someday. But if we had that and then we tried to build one and we had, everybody's sign and all that, they'd go back to their desk, they'd be totally distracted, and they wouldn't be able to do what they need to do, which was to build a website for their department. So the training is based on people building their site. They have to have a site to come to training. Now, I won't kick anybody out, but they're not going to learn as much if they're not actually building their site. They can come as many times as they want. We just instituted labs, which have actually become quite successful because we tried to do other types of training like setting up security for your site, or we call it casifying, so that only certain people can get into your site, permissions and roles. And the problem was that I'd only get 2 or 3 people at a class, and it wasn't a good use of my time or their time. So instead we have the labs, and if people want to learn that, then I teach it. So it's just kind of whoever shows up. And it really works out well, but I really think the key is having people work on their sites. I talked to some other people who are doing training who actually give people a test site, and then they have that test site for a couple of weeks and they can work on it. And I just don't see how that would really work. Not with our audience anyway. They really like the fact that they can work on something. What we use in training is the how-to guide. And this getting started is what we talk about in the Build the Yale Sites workshop. And mostly the focus is on just getting them used to the landscape, finding their way around, setting up that little menu block, which takes about 5 minutes, adding basic pages and adding pages to the features. And then what I tell them about, like, we have the WYSIWYG toolbar, that's part of our site. We use CK Editor. And I tell them to come back for the editing class if they want some detail. We just don't have enough time in a day. And we usually cover what they need in the afternoon when they're actually working on their site. But everything is here. And if somebody can't find something, then we add it. Because I don't want to have to rewrite the instructions every time somebody has a question. So this is kind of acts as our knowledge base. And then when people have questions, they post it to the forum. Now you're going to see my instance of the forum because I'm in here as an administrator. But they will post it to the forum, and it works out really well. Now again, the how-to guide is just the book module. There's nothing fancy about it. And the Yale Site's forum is the Drupal forum module. Nothing fancy about it except a rule that sends me an email when somebody posts the forum. So Victoria, this is the astronomy client, posted a question and I posted it back to her. She gets an email. Usually we end up fixing it, but a lot of times we like to use this as an education tool. But if it takes me longer to write it than fix it, I usually just fix it. But this I think is important because, again, I knew when I was learning Drupal, if it wasn't for Vincent, the technical guy in our group, who was very, very patient with me because I felt like every 10 minutes I was going up and saying, where's that checkbox? How do I turn off the site, the author information? Remember how in Drupal 6 it was hidden in the theme for your author information to show up? And I could never remember that. And he was so patient with me, and I thought, this is what we need to give our users. We need to give them that kind of mentoring where you're not going to remember everything when you're in training. You're just not. And they have to know that there's a place where they can ask questions. And if it's really complicated and really hard, we also have office hours that they could sign up for, and then we'll actually sit with them one-on-one and help to walk them through it because we want to educate them. I want to be unnecessary in 2 years. That's my goal. Yes?
I have a question about your development sites and how long the site will stay in development. Do you have an expiration date on that where you're trying to encourage folks to get their site developed in like 3 or 6 months, or can it stay in development indefinitely? Because that's one of the problems that we have experienced at Franklin College UJ is we'll set up like the site that this faculty member or department really wants, and it's self-help, and once they realize like, oh, I'm on my own, and then they're just like, well, I have this research I need to do, and we end up, maintaining modules and core updates for sites that are not being used. Do you have a problem?
No. First of all, we don't. The sites are all on a shared code base, so we don't have to worry about updating their modules. So that's the one thing, and we don't have worry about them because. I'm just trying to think about how to say this. It's kind of their site and we let them own it. And we don't really care. I don't want to sound like we don't care, but we just have found that the less we push people, the better. It can be in development forever. Now, if we're in the process of taking down the server that houses the HTML sites, if that goes away and their site isn't ready, that's their responsibility. So we want to empower people and give them ownership. I think having the training and support is really helpful because it helps to build that community. It's really hard to build a community when when you can't get them together for some kind of something that they feel good about when they leave. And I think that's one of the real benefits of the training is that we hope that they feel better when they leave the training, like they can do it. I think that's why people get stuck. But the other reason why people's sites don't go live is more of does anybody have committees in your educational institution? Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like, they have to get this consensus from everyone as to whether it's right and everyone has an opinion. And that's very common in an academic institution, so we can't really push it. So you had a question.
Yeah. If you don't, or maybe you get requests from the users or people to administer the sites to make it first template more interactive, so they can go through the site and answer the questions instead of going and to look in the tutorials and go through them?
Yeah, so we're actually in the process, I'm building a prototype using inline manual to do, I think that's what you're talking about?
Yes.
Where you go to, where you actually have the tutorials there, right there, so that you go step by step. That's one of the ones that we're looking at. Yeah. Yes.
Can you speak at all to the mechanism that actually spins up these distributions? I mean, somebody comes in, they request it, you approve it, but there's some mechanism that actually kicks that up and spins it up.
Right.
Can you talk all about that?
No. I can't.
If we said the word Ager, would that sound familiar to you?
No,
Okay.
Pantheon.
Pantheon.
Oh. It's not, no, I'm not selling Pantheon, although I do get a kickback. No, I don't. It's a Pantheon-like. It's not multi-site, and it is Pantheon-like in that the way that it's distributed is it is a shared code base. So if you go to the Pantheon table, they're here, right?
Yeah.
They probably could tell you that the history is that Four Kitchens is the group that built our initial distribution, and the guy that helped with that distribution is a founder and CEO or whatever. I should have memorized this so I would sound more intelligent as I'm being recorded on this. But anyway, he's the one that started Pantheon. So it's the same idea. I don't know if it's identical, but it's like electricity. I know it goes on, and I'm glad. I don't.
So you turned web form on by default for the sites. How do you manage the security concerns one might have by having forms? I don't know, if you lock them down, only people with certain accounts can fill out a web form. Do you not have problems with getting spam or hacked or anything?
Well, the web form module is turned on.
Yeah.
Whether or not there's a web form there or not is up to the person who creates the web form.
Right.
Once they do create the web form, I think I had turned it on, we do recommend that they only do it, so anyone at Yale is an authenticated, anyone who at Yale can log in and they become an authenticated user. It's not open to everybody. So you guys can't go in and try and log in because you don't have a Yale Net ID. Okay?
The entire domain of all the Yale sites. You can see what's public, but
right,
web forms you can't fill out unless.
Exactly.
Oh, how did you do that? I mean, how did you convince them? I guess that's what I'm asking.
I don't know.
Or you just said this is the way.
Kind of that.
Okay.
We are in the process, and it's almost done, of having third-party authentication, but it's not going to be a blanketed thing because people will use it crazy. Yes.
When you were saying that you had to be authenticated to fill out the forms, does that mean like even prospective students can?
This is not something that's being used for prospective students. That's a whole different thing. So we don't use, Drupal isn't at this time right now being used for all of our systems.
Okay, so there's more, Yale Site is more internal facing.
Internal, external, but
web forms locked down on this.
So web forms are not locked down. So web forms aren't locked down. You have the ability to, with a web form, to say that only authenticated users can complete that web form. If someone is going to do that for anonymous users, then we recommend that they turn on the Mollum module, and then they have to do a math question to get through. For what you're talking about, though, for things for prospective students, that kind of information is done on different systems because of security aspects and because it's a more robust. It's not that Drupal can't do it, we're just not there yet. So that's usually, it goes into somewhere else.
And you said that the CAS system that you referenced earlier, is that using the sign-on?
Yes.
And then it's integrated into Drupal?
It comes into Drupal and it actually will pull, when I sign in, it'll actually pull in my first name, my last name, my email, my phone, which was one of the things we weren't doing in Drupal 6.
It's like LDAP like.
Yeah. That's
I had a
good.
similar project where we had to do it with Shibboleth and it was fun.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Quick reaction.
Anybody else? else have any questions? Yes.
I have questions about modules. So when you spin up a site can the users just add whatever modules they want? Do you give them any guidelines about that? Like, hey, watch out for betas? Or...
No, they can't add a module.
Okay.
It's not even on the list. So if I go into, which one is this one? If I go to my module, you'll see that link isn't even there.
Okay. Okay. So if they want a module, they would put in a request, and do you guys charge for that, or okay? But if they want a custom module, then it would get kicked to like your developers or something, or third party.
It would get kicked to the developers, yes, and it has to be vetted. So we have to make sure. So somebody can't just go out and create a module. Usually, we recommend that if you're going to create a module, first go out to the module list because we know that there are thousands of modules out there, and then next, what you want to do is go. Go to a reputable Drupal developer and have them build that module, and then even then have it go through the community. Some of them don't warrant going to the community, but most of them do. So we try and follow that Drupal community path, but we don't. We don't have any limits other than it can't break the system.
Do you get a lot of requests for modules that aren't there already?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Do you approve most of them, or is there
both
evaluation process or something?
Vincent, like I said, is usually the one who will check it because he's real familiar with the back end. And we don't, it's usually if there's a duplication of effort. But sometimes even then, like for instance, we had nice menus and then we realized Superfish was better. Well, we couldn't take nice menus off for the people who were using it. So I shouldn't say Superfish was better. It was different. Wink, wink. We liked it better. And so we have both of those there, but that's the kind of thing we try to avoid. But you pretty much have any module you could possibly want. Yeah, I mean, that's why we like Drupal so much, because it's really hard to hit a wall. It's really hard to say to somebody, you can't do that, because you can do anything. Now, the other thing I was going to say is, if somebody requests, like some people requested organic groups, we don't support organic groups.
That's what I was wondering, because
I can't.
I totally understand. That's what I was curious about, because there's got to be a point if you have a module that is too complicated to integrate into this ecosystem, or really would just break this ecosystem, not necessarily that one.
Right. Right. It's just we just can't know everything. Now, if there's a lot of people that want organic groups and want to learn, for instance, Biblio was one that we didn't support, but then a lot of people want it, and so what we're doing is we're building a feature to make it easier for me to train and to make it easier for people to use it. So that's how we handle that kind of thing. But it takes time. Go ahead.
I was just wondering if you could speak real quick to how you guys are organized. You said there's 4 of you in your group, and you're under an IT office.
Right.
Do you have any tie-in with like communications or any other offices on campus?
So we used to be so first we were in IT. When we did Drupal 6, we were in IT. Then we went to communications. The web team did, and that's when we built our Drupal 7 instance with the 4 people. Then Yale Site started getting bigger because people were using it more. And so now we're back in IT, and part of the reason we're back in IT is because we can now share more resources. So there's 4 core people that are part of Yale Sites, but the team itself is growing because we're doing other things. So we have a whole usability team now, we have a content architect, we have a project manager, but they aren't specific to just Yale Sites. And then the infrastructure team, which is part of ITS, they do all the provisioning. And then we have the webmaster who does the URLs. So we've got the ability to kind of partner more within ITS as an ITS team. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
So is Drupal the one CMS that you support?
It's the one that I support. We also have a WordPress instance.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm at Wittenberg.
That's used mostly for student sites and some faculty sites, but it's not as I don't want to say it's not as support. It doesn't have training and how-to guidelines.
The team is the only team.
Okay.
Same here. Yeah, I am.